What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. My voice sounded hella cracky.
Yeah.
What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the CRX, but not mine. Today we are working on Leo's CRX. Yeah, so Leo decided to come up here again. You were just here like what, last week?
Yeah, like 5 days ago.
5 days ago. So he decided to join me at Race Wars, and he came up today, this morning, and went straight to the machine shop to drop off some stuff that we got to pick up a little bit later. But today we're gonna be working on his car. I'm gonna have to get my car off the driveway so we can get his car here. In case we work into the night, we have the lamp right here. And guys, if you have seen a couple of videos ago, I kind of spilled it a little bit about what we're gonna do with Leo's car, but wait no longer. Today we're going to be swapping Leo's CRX. Now, mind you guys, everything's in pieces, but that's because you've been collecting parts for a cool minute, you know, getting stuff from people, buy, sell, trade, treat, sell, buy, and Leo literally has about 90% of the stuff. Now, a lot of the stuff, I just so happen to have them sitting over here already, and we just got back from the parts store to grab the rest of the stuff that we needed, all the fluids and everything. And what's in the machine shop is the cylinder head. It was tested that it was leaking, so it probably did have a bent valve. The cylinder had what, 30 psi?
Yeah, it was like 30, 50, 140, and back to 30.
Yeah, so when he did that compression test when he was in SoCal, I told him to do the timing, get it into the time, and you found that it had two tooth off.
Yeah, it was two tooth.
It was two tooth off, and then I said normally in the case of that, it probably skipped timing and has a bent valve. So he took it to my machine shop. They tested it. It is leaking. We went to go get it because you dropped it off at 8. We went at 12. They said it was leaking, so they got to take it apart again. And while they're taking it apart, they are going to be doing the valve seals as well and resurface the head. So the cylinder head is going to be at the shop for another couple of hours because they are super busy. So you guys probably have seen the EG, how to B swap your like 92, 95 Civic. I think this is a great opportunity to kind of talk about all the parts in one video on how to B swap your EF, which is 88 to 91 CRX, hatch, sedan, and wagons. And we'll take you along like the whole 9 of how to B swap your cars and all the parts related to it, but I'm not really going to show you guys all the common stuff like putting engines in the car and things like that. So right now, I think first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean the transmission, the intake manifold, the block, because the head's in the machine shop. It's going to be super clean when it comes back. Sorry if I'm talking fast, but we're going to try to get everything all nice and clean, and then we're going to start from the block. We're going to start doing all the attachments and everything, the clutch, trans, and all that, and we'll talk about all the things needed along the way.
Water pump, timing belt kit, because while you have it out, you might as well do it. Don't suffer with the firewall.
Do it once, do it right. Damn! I don't know what kind of motor this is, but it looks fast. Hey, how fast is this car?
When I'm gassing it to the floor, I can get up to 35 miles an hour.
Fuck, dude. I wish I had one of these in my car. So I'm not going to show you guys too much of me cleaning all of this. Leo's getting down with pulling everything off of his car right now. Like I mentioned earlier, I want to talk more of the aspect of swapping your EF. So I'm just going to go ahead and just spray these down real quick. I mean, the only thing they had on the shelf was gunk. I didn't get any oven cleaner, but I'm going to try to get this as clean as possible. Oh, damn. God damn. And hopefully try to get this as clean as possible, looking presentable. And then we get into the swap stuff. Alright guys, so right now we had to take a break from the car because we are headed to the machine shop to go pick up the cylinder head, and hopefully all is well with that. We were hoping to get the block and everything into the car, but you know, one was working on the car, one was working on prepping the engine, so we didn't get it into the car. But that's good because that means we can slap the cylinder head on, we can do the time belt, water pump, and all that good jazz. Then we got to go to O'Reilly's and grab the rest of the stuff that we forgot.
Like 2 more.
So guys, we got the engine out of the car. Didn't really show too much about that because we've done this a million times before. So ceiling cam is out. We're not going to touch this until we need the stuff off of it, like the harness, injectors, and all that jazz. Now, I don't want to get too deep and thorough about the engine part of it, because if you're doing a B swap in your car, it's up to you to get your engine as complete as possible. I'm trying to cover more of the essentials you're going to need to put this in that car. So right now, because Leo got all of these parts separately and in pieces in multiple different occasions, we're assembling his long block together with the transmission, clutch, flywheel, all of that good stuff. And I want to tell you guys right now that if you're at this part of the build, it's very important that if you want to change any of your seals and water pump and stuff, this is the best time to do it. Change all that stuff out now so you don't have to struggle with it inside the car, because once you put a B series in an EF, you really don't have a lot of room here. Although you can still do water pump, time belt, and stuff, it's best to just do it now. It's not that expensive, it's not that hard to change it out, it won't take a ton of your time. Rear main seal is the most biatch part, so it's important to change this sucker out first before putting your clutch, flywheel, and stuff on, because that's going to take more time, more work to do when it's inside of the car. So right now, that is what we're going to do. We're going to work on the clutch transmission side, and then we're going to move over to the timing side, and then we'll get into the cylinder head portion of it. It looks like the original rear main seal on it. Let's pop that sucker out and get that new one.
Nice.
Simple enough. There you go, nice and flush. Go ahead and take that rag, clean that oil off a little bit. Now we are ready for the flywheel. Ma'am, are you meditating over there? Probably meditating. All right, we are doing 80 foot-pounds. So this is pressure plate to flywheel, 19 foot-pounds. All right, so we got the throb bearing installed, and we have one dowel right there. I'm gonna go ahead and put another one right here up in the front. One you can get away with, but I'd rather have two to ensure the transmission alignment. So now, if you did the clutch install correctly with the clutch alignment tool, this should just slide right in, right? Leo, I said slide right in. What did you do? You sound like you're struggling, my dude.
I am.
No, mames. Just gotta make sure it goes nice and straight, and then you can just slowly drive it in, and we'll be Tater Gucci's. Transmission is Ugga Dugga on there. We got one bolt for the starter, and B series, the lower starter has a very long bolt because it goes through the trans housing into the block. I have my bolt bin. We're gonna need this for the alternator, and I got one right here. It's my last one, actually. All right, starter. So I guess before we do the timing stuff, let's get the cylinder head on. Before you guys throw the head gasket and the head onto the block, you have to make sure you have your dowel pins installed. It's very important to have your dowel pins because they align the head to the block to ensure that these are all matching and lining up and not going to have any issues later down the road. So we have both the dowel pins on the back intake side on each corner. Simple enough because the gasket itself is also fitted per the dowel pin. So if you look, it does not fit on any of these holes in the front, in the middle. It only fits on the gasket in the back, and that is where it's supposed to sit. So we got the gasket in. When using a Fail-Pro, it has an indentation. It says up, and these gaskets are perfect for the job. I've used these on boosted setups and stuff, never had an issue with it. Clean the surface of that, this, and the gasket. Should be ready to marry. And also in the cylinder head, the holes for the dowels are bigger than the rest of it, so it should just slip right on and sit nice and flat. Now we are running stock head bolts for these, so we're not going to go crazy with the torque specs. We're just going to torque it to spec. Next up, head bolts. Now for the LS, they are 2 different sizes. The 2 in the center is the longest ones, and then the other 8 are the same size, which are shorter. Short boys. The head bolt size are 14s, and the first torque spec for the stock head bolts are going to be set to 22 foot-pounds. Second torque, final torque spec, 63. Obviously the head has been through the machine shop and it's been super cleaned out, so I want to ensure that we have oil on all of the moving parts of the valve train ahead of time. Same thing you want to do for all the journals and stuff, so that way the cams are not riding dry. So because all your rockers are mixed up in there, we're going to be doing a valve adjustment, and normally I do a valve adjustment anyways for a fresh swap to ensure you ain't going to have all that crazy ticking noise. So first things first is rockers, and then cams, and then the caps. Make sure you don't forget your cam seal. Got a block strip of O-ring. Make sure it's nice and straight so it's presentable. Put the last cap on and then torque it down. All right guys, so the next step we're going to get into is the timing side. Now it's pretty straightforward. Water pump, timing belt, tensioner, change all that brand new while you're here. So we already got everything chilling right here. Water pump, we got the tensioner, we have the belt over there, and we're going to be swapping all that right now. We're just going to go ahead and go right to it and get this thing timed. So you want cylinder 1 to be at TDC. I got a little screwdriver in here, and what you want to do is you want to mark the gear to the little triangle mark on the oil pump. So on the gear itself has this little line right there that you have to line up there. So once these match up, this screwdriver should be at the very top, and that means the piston is at the very top of the cylinder before it rotates its way back down. So get that lined up there. So now we got to get the cams pointing up on the cam gear. You can see it says up right there, and it says up right here. It's close but not quite. So we're going to take a 12 mil. Sometimes these are 14. I think it's a VTEC model, it's a 14. These are non-VTEC, so they're 12 mil. Take the 12 mil and you're going to line up this little line on the outside of the gear to the flatness of the cylinder head. So you're just going to turn this until the up arrow points up, and these line on, I mean literally it's like 1 tooth,
half a hair.
yeah, about right there. It's going to be a give or take. So do the same thing on this side, outside mark to the cylinder head surface.
Twist this one now,
whichever way you got to go, my guy. Somewhere there. Belt's all nice and tensioned, all aligned. Rotated a couple revolutions, realigned all the TDC mark, and everything lines right back up where it needs to be. Valve lash. The valve lash is TDC on cylinder 1. You do cylinder 1, and then you rotate 90 degrees to do cylinder 3, 90 degrees again to do cylinder 4, 90 degrees again to do cylinder 2. That is the order for the valve lash process. So we're just going to go ahead and knock this out real quick, and start buttoning up the rest of the stuff for this engine so we can get this in the car. All right guys, so we're plowing through the night here, just trying to get the engine as complete as possible. Now you guys shouldn't have to worry about this unless you guys were in our position where everything was completely separated. The completeness of the engine is totally up to you. So we pretty much found every bolt and nut that we needed to get all of the stuff attached to the engine: valve cover gasket, intake manifold gasket, fuel rail, injector, the whole nine. Everything is all ready to go. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the necessities you need to get this B swap into your EF. Now if your car is an SI, and that applies to the CRX and the EF hatch, and if you're driving a sedan, it'll be the EX model, and if you're driving a wagon, it'll be the RT four-wheel drive model. These models, you do not need to modify your harness if the engine is staying OBD 0. The SI harness, EX, RT four-wheel drive harness should plug into your engine and plug into your car, and the only wiring you would need to do is if you are converting to OBD 1, or if you're running things like OBD 2 injectors, OBD 2 alternator, you have to wire those accordingly. Now if your car is the DX or a standard, which comes dual point fuel injection, you need to do the multi-point fuel injection conversion, and I'll link that above here guys. I've done that plenty times here on the channel. So you need to do that before doing your swap, so that way the harness is pretty much ready for injection. And right now Leo's car is an SI, so his harness is already multi-point injected, so he's pretty much just playing it into the engine right now. The car is still going to be running OBD 0, so all of the current plugs is on the harness should plug up to everything that we have set up for the engine. So we have the SI harness installed. Every vacuum line, coolant line that we can run, that we have to run, are installed as well too, so they're all ready to rock and roll. And this thing is about to be ready to roll underneath the car. Now before we get this planted inside the car, we're going to need specific motor mounts. So the motor mount kit we're using tonight is Innovative Mounts, and these are specific for B series cable transmission into the EF chassis. Now the cable transmission mount is different from the hydraulic transmission, so you got to figure out what transmission you're running before you buy your engine mounts, so that way you get the correct one to bolt the engine correctly into the car. And we're running with a cable transmission. Now lucky for him, he has both mounts, but he was able to score a cable transmission to keep the cable driven clutch setup that's in the car, which is this giant black cable right here. And we're about ready to slap it into the car. Now in part of the motor mounts and getting this B swap into an EF, you need the correct post mount. So for our chassis, the correct geometry post mount bracket is from the 9093 Acura Integra, which is a 2-post, and this will offset the engine correctly. Now for the rear mount also requires a specific rear T bracket. Now this bracket right here is from a 9093 Acura Integra DA DB 2-door 4-door. They're same, but you need this one right here again for the geometry to place this engine in the EF engine bay. So you cannot use the DC Integra. The bolt mounts does not line up because of the way the bracket is designed. So if you guys are swapping your EF, DA bracketry is what you need. Now the Innovative unit uses 3 bolts for the rear mount. Half Sport uses only 2. And if you're using Houseport, you're using the 2 bolt holes closer to the driver's side. Also guys, for the EF chassis, the engine comes really close to the driver's side frame rail, and you have to bang this in order to clear the alternator pulley. Now you can get away with a very short belt, but putting a short belt on and trying to you know, maintenance it and change it out later down the road, it's really hard to try to maneuver a small belt in between 2 pulleys. But the dent that you have to put here, normally I line it up to this square right here, go straight down, and then hit probably a good 2.5 by 2.5 or 3 by 3 inch, and just hit it enough that, you know, you're not punching a hole through it. We have a good enough dent here that I'm sure is going to clear the alternator pulley. So you have to do this before the engine goes into place. All right guys, so majority of the stuff that needs to be connected in the engine bay are connected. We have our vacuum for the fuel pressure regulator, we got the vacuum for the booster, we have the clutch cable installed, we have all of the fuel lines connected, return line, we got the vacuums for the charcoal canister, all that good jazz, and the harness is plugged up on both ends. Now Leo is working underneath the car, I'm working on the top. And Leo, where's that bar at? So for an EF B swap, guys, you need an EF B swap specific shift linkage, and the two companies that I know of that has one is Innovative, which is this red unit here, and Hasport, which is what I have in my other cars. This right here is linked specifically for a B swap in an EF chassis, so that way your shifter is not all like out of whack as far as position goes inside the car. We're running the Innovative unit because, I mean, he got a good deal on it with the Innovative mounts and stuff. So he got the shifter, everything all buttoned up, and he's about ready to get this installed inside the car or underneath the car. And then we're going to move into getting the axles and stuff all situated so we can get this thing back on the ground. Leo has the shift linkage installed. I just got the distributor, all the wires are done. Majority everything here on the top is done other than the header and the radiator, but that's not much more before we are ready to fire this thing over. So right now he is doing the axles for the swap. Let's talk about axles for a quick minute. The axles, there are two types of axles, or at least the driver's side and the intermediate shaft. In this case, we are using the correct half shaft for the transmission. The transmission is a 9093 cable style, which uses a cable and not hydraulic, and the intermediate shaft that we are using is the 9093 Integra, and we are using the matching half shaft seal to the transmission, as well as the matching driver's side axle. The difference between the 94 Plus and the 9093 Integra half shaft is the 94 Plus half shaft is actually a male end, so the axle that goes into that intermediate shaft is actually a female end, which doesn't have the shaft. The DA has a shaft on both sides, and Leo already got it installed, so I can't really show you, but just use as an example right here. The difference between the passenger and driver is the driver's side DA is splined all the way across. The passenger side is only splined halfway, and the axle for the passenger side doesn't matter. The 9001 Integra, they're all the same other than the ABS ring. When you're installing your axles into your hub, you have to make sure that you are removing the dust ring that sits normally right here. Leo doesn't have his because we did the wheel bearing a while ago, and the dust ring is not here. But I'm letting you guys know that when you're doing this to your EF and you have untouched hubs and you're doing a B swap, make sure you take off that dust ring. Otherwise you're going to have binding issues, and you're going to have turning issues and potentially break or snap an axle. So Leo's just going to go ahead and finish up this side right here, guys, and I'm just going to go ahead and get the header off of my engine over there, and we're going to swap that over here. And the reason for that, instead of the 4-to-1 header, is because it is way too late right now to cut and weld. So I'm going to take the exhaust off the giveaway car, which is matched to that header, which should bolt up to this car and have the car nice and quiet for startup, for bleeding process, and getting this thing ready for the road tomorrow. And then when we come back from the track the following day, Sunday, it's going to be EF versus DA, so we're going to be headed out to that. And then when we come back, we'll put his header on, we'll modify his exhaust to fit the header, so that way Leo can have his setup nice and quiet to drive back to LA. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get down to work, guys. We're trying to knock this out quick because we lost a lot of time. Let's get to it. DC header is on. He's buttoning up the passenger axle. Now when it comes to the radiator, you can use your stock radiator, but the thing is, when you go to B swap, you have to swap out your upper and bottom radiator hoses. Why? The single cam and the B series have two different diameter inlets and outlets. You have to get the B series hoses so that way the diameter fits the B series engine, right? And then over here on the radiator, yeah, it is a little bit smaller, but you can squeeze it with a worm clamp instead of the stock pressure clamp, and you can tighten it up enough that it won't leak. If you have an aluminum radiator, you have nothing to worry about, but for these, you got to make sure you don't over tighten it, because these can become brittle and break under pressure when you're driving. So Leo got some new hoses right here. This is from an Acura Integra DA 9093. So we are on the last stretch, guys. Got the coolant filled up, got the oil trans, we got the alternator belt from my Flip RX. I had to MacGyver a little bit because the belt was a little too long. The rest that I have was too short, so I put a little spacer on the bracket right there to bring the bracket out to bolt the alternator and tension it accordingly. Leo is putting the exhaust flange to the header, and the only thing left is ground, and we're ready to fire this thing over. Also got to be very courteous because I don't really stay up this late anymore, but it is 1:38 and we're supposed to leave in 5 hours. One of those nights. So Leo is done underneath the car, wheels are back on. We're leaving it in the air because we got to bleed it out as far as the cooling system goes. And I disconnected the distributor just so we can prime the oil through the system, because it didn't have oil in it for a cool minute, and obviously the refresh head. So we want to make sure we get oil through the system before we fire it over. I can't time the engine because there's no lower timing cover, so I just dead centered the distributor and should be okay for right now. Leo, make sure you get a lower timing cover. Very important. OBD2 LS or B20.
Make sure you connect the battery.
I just want to make sure that you knew, you know what I mean? No, mommies. I'm just tired, guys. It's 2 in the morning right now. All right, take 4.
We're about to leave in like 20 minutes.
Take 5. Crank it. All right. I'm crossing fingers. The oil pump's good, and we got some oil going through the system. I knew the firing order was wrong on the distributor, the way it came, and I just kind of left it alone. But hopefully it's gonna work. Take 1,000. Oh shit! Something is grounded out. So the terminal for the starter, there's no sleeve on it, and it was like resting on top of the starter body, but it is bent out of the way now. I'm probably gonna electrical tape it in a minute, but I'm ready to go again. Oh, kind of warm. Fuse for the battery, looking good. Take 100 trillion trillion. Let's go. Officially B-swap. Hell yeah. Not too loud. All right, Leo, we ain't got no light, but I do have a flashlight. Impressions.
I want to say my first impression is it is 100 times better. Definitely.
In what ways?
In every way possible. I mean, in the aspect that you have so much power range now, it's a lot beefier. I don't know. It's also, it scares me, and I think I like that.
This dude was tightening up his lug nuts, and he realized that the whole front of the car weighs more down than the single cam did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? When you torque it with the torque wrench and you feel the car moving forward, it feels different, right?
Yeah.
So now you're officially B series, my guy, and you know what I'm saying? We're taking this maiden voyage tomorrow, well, in a couple of hours, to Race Wars.
Yep.
And I think we're just about ready to wrap it up tonight, guys.
Definitely, man. Thank you.
Hell yeah. All right, guys, so we're gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope it wasn't too much bouncing around. I did want to cover a lot with the EF swap, but I think I covered majority of it. It's pretty straightforward. It's just like every other swap in another chassis. When you're buying motor mounts, buy the correct motor mounts. When you're buying axles, buy the correct axles. Shift linkage and all that. Research does you wonders, and if you guys don't want to research, at least go down the video list, because I've done a lot of series on B swapping your EF and thorough videos of the main components you're gonna need to swap your vehicle. So we are done with Leo's car. We have to situate the 2K idle, but it's really not that bad. Granted, his exhaust is a little bit quieter now, but all in all, you heard it himself. The car drives great, and we're gonna take it on his drive tomorrow, about 130 miles. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a thumbs up, and if you guys want to stick around for Race Wars video, which should be after this one since it is in a couple of hours for us, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.